the timer starts
Okay.
because it takes a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, we're starting.
Hey everyone. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to the Bangura Chronicles Diaspora Voices on Blacksit Radio, as well as the Bangura Chronicles on YouTube. I have the pleasure of speaking with a sister today. She's one of my immigrant sisters, expat sisters here in Mexico. Her name is Moeima Makeba. And we're going to chat about her life here and why she chose to live in Mexico and all the good stuff. She's living one of the versions of her best life here, as many of us are. And welcome, Moima. Thank you for coming to my show.
Thank you for having me, Roxana, sister.
Yes. Now let me ask you. Moima calls Playa del Carmen home, and what made you choose first of all to live in Mexico? What how did you arrive at that to make here your home?
It's a funny story. We were knee deep in the pandemic, and I was in the house with my mama, my two sisters, and my nephew, and I was just like, I'm not gonna make it. Like, I'm, I'm not gonna make it, and I don't want to make it. Like, this is crazy. And I remember it was November of 2020, and it's just crazy how life, spirit, God works. I'm a big YouTube person. I love YouTube. And I was on YouTube, and like I get this random video that comes out of literally nowhere that it's like, I moved to Mexico, da 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 da, something like that. And it was of this woman who had moved to Merida. And I was like, she was like talking about her life and what made her move there and what her experiences were. And I was like, I'm a New Yorker, if you can't tell, but it's really hard to leave New York. New York is a very hard place to leave for several reasons. And I just kept getting sucked back. If it wasn't a great job, it was like a relationship that was kind of keeping me stuck. And at the time of the pandemic, I was like, when Mexico hit, I was like, girl, this might be your chance, like, to get up out of here. Like, for real, for real. And I was like, well, you know what I'm gonna do? I wanted to go on a little trip anyway. I didn't plan on really being around people so much. I just wanted to get out of my house. So I was like, I'll go to the beach. I'll go to Playa del Carmen. I'll go to Tulum. They're still kind of open-ish. And I'll just mind my P's and Q's, stay to myself. I didn't want to be spreading anything around or just being around people. And I was like, you know what? I'll know if this is somewhere where I could actually move. I'll just know. And within 15 minutes of being in Playa del Carmen, I was like, this is a vibe. I was like, this is cute. And within that time, I went to look for a place. I ended up putting a deposit on the apartment that I have now, which was the first apartment that I saw, but I ended up squeezing in a couple of other viewings. But I put in my deposit on December 31st, and then I moved on Inauguration Day.
Oh my goodness! On inauguration day of
Yes,
Biden,
girl. And it was
or
it was
Trump,
I will
Biden
never
or
forget.
Trump.
I had a
Oh,
seven
Biden.
o'clock flight.
Uh huh.
It's starting to snow outside. All of the news is like inauguration, inauguration. I was like, bye. None of that is my business. Like, see ya.
You were out.
I'm out.
You were out. So let me
Yes.
ask you, how was the initial transition when you arrived? That fateful day in December. How was the transition? Your first couple of days, weeks, and months. How did you adjust to life in Playa del Carmen?
Yes. When I arrived, and I'm coming up on my anniversary actually, because it's January, it's in a couple weeks. So when I arrived, it was great. I was really excited. I was so excited. Um Levels of excitement to be in my own space, to be in a new place. And it was really, really awesome. But you know what? I hit a wall. I hit
Mm,
a wall, like, I want to say maybe 2 weeks after I came. Like, I
mm-hmm.
just got super depressed. I got really
Mm,
depressed. Because I think my anxiety just really ramped up, and my nervousness. I mean, I'm born and raised, like, born in New Jersey. I've split my time between New York and New Jersey my whole life. Between my dad was in New York, my mom's in Jersey. I still have relatives in New York, in Brooklyn and Queens, and I started my career there. I went to school there, the whole thing. So that's like what I know. And being here and being alone and being in another country and being in another country that I have to speak another language, it just, I think, all hit me at once and freaked me out, to be quite honest. But it wasn't enough to scare me away. I just knew that I needed to get acclimated and I needed to get out of my head a little bit. And also start making like this place feel like home as best as possible.
So you talk about acclimating. What did you do to get acclimated?
It's time. It's time. And what happens is you need to go out and like find your places, whether it's a fruit stand, whether it's your favorite salad at whatever spot, whether it's, and I mean, this is also how you create community for yourself too. Like, people see you and they're like, oh, hey, da 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 da. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you do. You create a life by every day going out and living it. So acclimating is really just about trying to push out of your comfort zone as much as you can, bit by bit.
Okay, there's another word that I'm that's coming to mind, which is something that I really started to use while living here. Acclimate was a part of the vocabulary, but the other word was acculturate, right? To really try to, I guess, not necessarily become Mexican in the sense, because I'm not Mexican, but to really try to have a more intimate understanding of the culture,
Right.
in all its variances. Is that something that you were able to do, or was it something important to you? Um, are you are you finding that you've been here, you have some time on the ground? Have you attempted to acculturate a bit to life in Mexico?
For sure. Absolutely. Acculturate is a great word. Um, I think, okay, so let's start with the fact that the reason why I believe that it's hard for me to leave, or it was hard for me to leave New York, is because I have certain standards, right? I want great food. Wherever I'm living at, the food needs to be good. I need to have some decent looking people as well. And come on. But like, so it's like when Mexico hit me, like, I was like, why have I never thought of Mexico? Racism, racism, for sure, racism. Um, as an American, being like having these thoughts put in your head that it's a dangerous place and you can't trust it, and like all of those things, like, it literally never entered my mind until I saw that YouTube, and my mind just started going to all these different places. I was like, well, this is perfect because I want to go somewhere with culture. And Mexico has like many of like the most ancient civilizations known to man.
Mhm.
Like, come on. And it's not even that far away from my home. I feel like this is just adding up because I wasn't prepared to go so far away. I wanted to be at least like a plane ride near my family, like a few hours. So being an hour away from the airport, et cetera, it all made sense. But back to what you had asked me in terms of the culture, there's a lot of layers to that, because being American, we're we're so on the fringe of and on the outside of how most of the world lives. Like, how we live is not how most of the world lives. Like, even if you're talking about like a Western Europe, still no. Like, we have a lot of things that we're used to, and we certainly can be very entitled. So our lens is different. Secondly, I'm a woman, so I'm
Mhm.
living in a country that is quite patriarchal by
Mm.
definition. So you have that. And then you have everything else. Like it's a melting pot at the end of the day, you know. I think Mexico is, and people don't really describe it that way, but I think it's such a melting pot because learning about the history and like the different like they have like learning about something like al pastor is then you start to learn about like, oh well, there were Arabs in Mexico, and that's where, you know, that came from, the whole idea of using a spit, you know, and Mexicans had their twist on it. So there's so many stories to learn, and
Hmm.
I do learn them and I enjoy learning them. I mean, living in Playa del Carmen and being in the Mayan Riviera. So, like, I've had exposure to some Mayan culture, which is really interesting. And I look forward to learning more about like the Olmecs and the Aztecs and just, and I think it's incredible just being here, like how they've managed to keep the language alive. So yeah, it's a everyday learning experience because there's a lot of cross cultural mishmash, you know. It's a lot. It's a lot, and I try to find as much familiarity as possible. You know, like going to like Mexico City felt familiar to me. You know, like I was like, oh my god, I'm so down to that. But like, and many people have been like, oh, why don't you live in Mexico City? I'm like, no, no, because I mean, I'm coming from New York, man. Like, greatest city in the world. Obviously, I'm biased, but like, I don't want that. I want it to be somewhere where I could have, you know, tranquilo, calm. And at this stage in my life, I want to just focus on me. And when you live in a city like that, everything is so distracting. The men, the food, the parties, the art, everything is so distracting. Like, why you got the beach and the beach? That's it. Yeah, and then nothing else going on. You don't want to talk to these tourists. Like, no. So,
So let me, you know, you said so many things that really basically, I echo. I agree with everything you said. Um, I've gotten the thing where like I've gotten pressure to move to Mexico City, and I love Mexico City. Like you said, it's a whole vibe, and there's so much going on, and it's a mega city. It's a mega city, you know, and it
absolutely.
overwhelms me. It overwhelms me, and I'm from the Bronx, you know, it
Right.
overwhelms me. I'm like, it's a lot.
Right.
Mexico City is a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot to battle with. You're saying that, you know, Playa del Carmen is a totally different, you know, energy. It's a totally different type of vibe. It's like you said, tranquila, more laid back. Um, and it, you know, I live in Veracruz, so I'm not having that real tourist experience, tourism type experience, because people are tourists to Veracruz, but not at the rate that they are in Playa del Carmen or
Right.
Mexico City. How have you kind of dealt with the whole tourism aspect? Because I know, being a New Yorker, you know, I get irritated with tourists.
Right.
Like, I don't, you know, I try to tell people, New Yorkers, we avoid Times Square. Like, that's a
Yeah.
place, it's
Yeah.
very annoying to be in Times Square. Like, it's one of the worst places in the city if you're trying to get
Absolutely.
to where you're going, unless you have to work there, you have business there. How do you maneuver every day in an area that's it's world famous? You know, Playa del Carmen is in the state of Quintana Roo, on the, like she said, the Riviera. It's Maya. How do you contend with the tourism aspect of living in such a kind of a transient place?
Right. Um, just like what you said, I avoid them like the plague. Like I'm just, I'm just
That's
like,
right.
bye. You know, like for example, like right before, you know, we had our interview, I was starving. I had a pedicure. It's been a long day, so I got a pedicure after I had my work day, and I realized I was so hungry, and I was like, oh, I'll go get a bite, and then I'll head back home, and we can do this interview. So where I live, even I'm a little bit off the beaten track, like not so much, but just enough that a tourist would be like, a 15-minute walk. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. So you don't really see tourists over here so much. Um, over by Quinta or Avenida Fifth Ave, right? That's where you see all of them. It's closer to the beach, obviously. The closer to the beach that you get, the more tourists you'll see. Um, and yeah, that's where they be at. Like, I don't really be over there. Like, unless it's, for some shopping, maybe to pick up this and that. But I'm used, again, like just like what you said, like I'm used to pivoting around nonsense. So like avoiding Times Square. And mind you, again, like I would go see my mama or go to Jersey, whatever. So like I would have to walk past Times Square to get to Port Authority. And I'm like, I know that route like the back of my hand. I know exactly what streets to avoid. Exactly. And it's an in and out situation. It's the exact same thing here. Like when I go to oh my god, what is the store that like Mega, right? So like if I go over by Mega, for example, like there's like all the taco trucks and stuff over there. Like that's like the closest I really get to them. Now there's another aspect because I'm in this like tourist area, dating is so weird, right? So you gotta figure out what you're trying to do because if you just want some vacation peen, you get it. You
Hmm.
get it. You get
I
it.
can
Oh, you want somebody
imagine.
you'll never see again? Perfect.
That's the place to be.
This is the place to be. You know,
Hmm.
and God forbid, because God forbid, like I actually had that happen to me. I was like, oh, it's perfect. I'm never gonna see him again. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna stay for like another 3 weeks. And I'm like, awesome.
No, that wasn't the
Wow.
plan.
Yeah, like that was not the plan. Typical. But yeah, like I just do my thing and I don't really let it affect me. And you have to, and it's just like what you said. Playa del Carmen is a world-class tourist destination, especially in light of South America
Mm.
and other parts of Central America. So you will get a lot of people all over Mexico that visit, but you have like a lot of Argentines here. And then you have like a sprinkle of like some Venezuelans, because of course you have the tourists, but you also have other people who've migrated here. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a mix and it's a day by day situation. Trying to find, the right fit in terms of friends, relationships, colleagues, various practitioners, finding like a good doctor, good dentist, da 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 da, Yeah.
So let me ask
But
you, you mentioned
I
it's
mean, the
it's a
reason why I
mix.
moved here is because it's so
Uh-huh.
accessible.
It's so
Yeah.
accessible. Yeah, because it's an international city and it caters to, who migrates there. So you're not probably missing many things there. When you mentioned friendships, have you been able to sustain friendships living in Playa del Carmen? Like, is it a place where you can connect with people? Because I get the impression that, you and I, we're in groups together, and there's just a lot of people coming through, just coming through.
Right.
And I live in
Huge
Mexico full
turnover.
time. Yeah, I live here
Yeah.
full time. So
Yeah.
have you been able to like have sustainable relationships there in Playa?
Um, Not exactly. Not how I would like it to be, but let me be earnest. I also can travel a lot. I mean, I just spent 2 months, 2.5 months where I wasn't even here, right? So it's that. Friendships are harder when it's like I don't like to subscribe to the idea that friendships are hard when you're older. I think that they're a little bit more challenging because A, you have more boundaries. B, you have life. You have like major life things. People got kids, like job, like da 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 da, like issues of all sorts. So what I found is like it's nice, for example, like running into people. I have a friend of mine who is a bartender, and where I went to eat today, he kind of works like around the corner. He's Argentine. And like I like messaged him on WhatsApp. I was like, hey, like, are you working? He was like, yeah, I did it come by. I was like, I can't, but I just want to make sure you were still at the same place. Like, Did it, you know what I mean? And like, because there's also um a pretty potent black community here. Like there are people that I know me. You know what I mean? Like they at least know me by face. Few and far between, because again, like there really is such a high turnover. You never know who's gonna stay, who's not gonna stay. Like I'm sure people think that I've moved away, and it's not that I haven't moved away. It's sometimes I'm so antisocial, like I have no interest in really talking to anybody, or I'm traveling.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
think that I mean, I would like to make friends, but you know what? I didn't really make friends here, but you know where I made friends at? In Mexico City. Like I have people who will check in on me. I have people who are like who have come to visit me in Playa, who I think we have been more aligned than anyone that I've met in Playa del Carmen. And that makes sense because I feel like they're more city minded, so that makes sense, like how we would gel. But I do have a few friends in Mexico City, and I love going to Mexico City. I mean, I love going there, period, but I love going and seeing them and knowing that I have friends there.
Yes, same here. Same here. Um, Let me ask you, as an immigrant, what have you learned about yourself? As an immigrant to Mexico, what have you learned about yourself? How have you changed, grown? What have you learned?
I've learned that, I mean, I knew this, but like it's not worse. It's stronger here. I just need to have patience. I need to have
Mm,
patience. I've also learned that when you are American, you really have, it's the best way that I can describe it. You have such a skewed view of the world in a way that is so deep that you don't know it until you don't know it if you're not willing to see it, and you don't know it unless you really are outside of the country. Like
mm,
really go outside of the country, really experience it. And when I say that, I mean not hanging out with just expats, not, going to places that are familiar to you, like that might be, more American, like eating different food, you know what I mean? All of those things. I think because I am, in terms of being an American, I'm a first generation child. So my parents are West African. So my upbringing and my knowledge of where they came from is a potent education for me. So coming into a country like this, my mom had to go pick up water. She had to go to the market every 2 to 3 days to buy food. But like I understand what that's like from, I guess, like a second person experience, because that's
by
what I heard. I
proxy.
heard that,
Yeah,
you know
by
what I mean?
proxy. Hmm.
Exact by proxy, exactly. Like I heard that from my mom, my aunties, my uncles, da 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 da, like what they had to do everyday life. So coming here and seeing how some people live, that resonated with me in a way that it might not resonate with others who migrate here, you know?
Hmm.
Um, but it's taught me, and it's also taught me, just like, to be honest, like when I travel down south, I have to like I gotta chill out, because when you're in New York, you're like here always,
You're
you
at
know, and like
10.
you gotta bring it, you gotta bring it down. You gotta bring it
Hmm.
down. You gotta take time, have patience, breathe,
Hmm.
recognize that some things are not going to always work out, recognize that customer service isn't a thing outside of America. Deal, you'll
Hmm.
deal, and just be kind. That's it. Be kind and be compassionate and aware of others.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Patience is constantly tested daily, daily. Oh my goodness, daily. Okay,
Sometimes
as a
hour
child of
by hour, girl.
girl,
Sometimes
minute by
hour by
minute,
hour.
girl, minute by minute, minute by minute. And I always have to do a temperature check because I'm like, well, this is not right. And I know I have to understand that I'm a guest in Mexico. I'm a legal guest, but I'm a guest. I'm not a citizen
Right.
of this country. But, certain things are just, you know, and I'm a fighter. Like, I will tell you, hey, this is not right. Even if I lose, I have to let you know to get it off my chest. Okay, you mentioned your
Yes.
family. Yeah, I have to let you know. You mentioned your family are immigrants. West African. What country are we talking about, or countries?
Liberia.
Oh my
LIB.
goodness, we're neighbors. Okay, Sierra Leone. All right. Well, I have both because I have family that's Liberian, so we're both. Um, well,
Beautiful.
let me ask you. Yeah, I have tons of family born in Liberia. I mean, Liberia and Sierra Leone. It's like,
We're neighbors. Yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing. When you, as a child of immigrants, you had kind of, like you said, the by proxy awareness of maybe what it is to be in a developing country. In many instances, Mexico is a developing country. What type of pushback did you get? Any pushback from your family when you moved here? Your mom, your siblings, your dad, like, what did they say? Like, hey, you to go Mexico? Because I know I got pushback. So,
First of all, my family knows how I am. I'm super independent. I've had a job since I was like 13 years old. Like I was like, I ain't waiting for y'all. I'm not waiting for, like, when I want something, I want something. Like I just go and get it. That's always how I've been. That being said, I also tend to be like the rebellious one. So I don't think
are you the
you're
middle child? Are you the middle child?
technically, you know what's weird? Okay, so I have three sisters, but it's like my mom had my eldest sister when she was young, and then she had me. So technically, I'm the only child of my mom and my dad. And then when she got remarried, she had two more girls.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
like it's like I'm an only middle child. It's like a weird dynamic. Um, I remember I told people I was the only child for like years, and I absolutely, my mom was like, "Stop telling people that. Like, you have sisters." It's like, no. It's like, no, 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 no. Done. I was like, no, didn't sign up for that. That was your decision, not mine. But I didn't tell my mom I was moving until everything was like set and ready, like done, because I just didn't want to hear her mouth, to be honest. Like, God forbid she ever sees this, whatever. Anybody that knows her understands. But I just, like, I had made my mind up, and I had made my mind up. I made my mind up, and I knew that this was what I really, really needed. I was really unhappy in New York. As much as I love New York, I was very unhappy. And I was just ready. I was ready for this. And like also, like, ain't nobody paying for this. Like, I don't need to run this by anybody. Like, it's done, you know? So I told her I must have gotten back. When I got back from my trip, I maybe let like a day pass or two. And I came down, I was like, hey mom, I've got great news. And she's like,
Ha!
she was like, what? And I was like, I'm moving. I'm moving to Mexico. And she was like, what? No. She was like, uh-huh. What you say? Like, which is
Mhm.
African for, girl, you must be outside of your mind. But like,
Mhm.
I showed her like my apartment because I had videos in my apartment and like the space, da, 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 and I was like, I'm only a few hours away. I'm right near the airport. I'm not, it's like not like I'm disappearing in like the wilderness, like I'm living in a tourist destination. Like most of the people that the Mexicans there speak English. Like I will be learning more Spanish because I have a pretty good foundation of Spanish. Um and et cetera and et cetera. I mean, I'm also grown. Like, even though when you're African, that doesn't mean anything. But like, that don't mean nothing. But
That's
like,
true.
you know, it was what it was. And I
Well,
just
how
told
has it
her because
been? It's been two
hmm,
years now. It's been 2 years now. It's
it's
been
been
some
2
years
years
now.
now.
So how
Yeah.
is she and how is the family adjusting to this?
they've adjusted. Well, it's funny. My first year, like clocking in on my first year, she was saying to someone, she was like, oh, somebody was like, oh, do you miss, because how you really pronounce my name the real African way is Moeima. And they were like, oh, do you miss Moeima? And she was like, she's always here, she doesn't give me a chance to miss her. Because because with my time being here, I remember, okay, I came in January, and then I came back in March because I was going to pack up the remainder of my things and put them in a unit, so like I had a plan. I came over here, I came up with a good amount of stuff, but then I wanted to move some of my things out of my mom's house and put them in a unit. And then, of course, I had work. So, like, yada yada. So probably like my first year, I'd probably been back home at least 3 times, So she saw me. So,
Okay.
and also I feel like that was a great transition for all of us. It's not like I just left and like she hasn't seen me for 2 years. Like I I I just spent like over 2 months with the woman, like yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing as someone who's fully remote. uh, which is the beauty about, we're privileged. What a blessing. You're able to just be wherever and you're still able to earn a living. What do you
Absolutely.
do? Do you mind sharing what you do for a living here in
Of
Mexico?
course, yeah. I'm a digital marketer. So that means different things depending on the client, but I have various clients, typically around like the creative niches. So like entertainment, media, fashion, things like that. And then yeah, I do different things, but lots of content creation and just marketing people's products or their brands and how whatever way they need me to.
Now, with this position that you have as a digital marketer, is this something that you got in Mexico, or were you already doing that in the States and you were able to transition it to Mexico?
Yeah, I was already doing it. That's one of the, I mean, the first person that I told that I was moving actually was my boss. Um I remember I was like, "Yes, I'm gonna move." She's like, "What?" Yeah, like to be really real with you, the pandemic was like the best thing that happened to me because business just increased so much, like, and my need increased so much in terms of these companies needing me and needing my assistance. So I just my stability, my financial stability increased thousandfold, you know? So when I realized that, and I was like, you know what, and this isn't going anywhere. Like I've got these jobs, like I've got some really solid stuff. I've got a few clients that are kind of like in and out. But the ones that are permanent or steady is like plenty of income for me to be comfortable. So yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. When you mentioned moving here during COVID or, the pandemic, so many people moved here during the pandemic. At least it seemed that way, being in the groups and this sort of thing. Do you know if a lot of those people who maybe came in on the wave that you came in on, do you know if a lot of them are still around, or maybe they've moved? Are you still in contact with any of them? Because I just remember being in the groups, and it was just so many people coming during that time because Mexico was open. Mexico
Yeah,
was open, unlike other
exactly.
countries. Do you know if a lot of people made it a go like you have, or do
I
you know
mean,
who?
I think that a lot of my relationships fluctuated for sure because like I said, this place has a very high turnover.
Mhm.
Um and you'll get people who come here and they're just like, yeah, I'm done with this place. Like after 6 months, they're done. Like. Um I know quite a few people who, yeah, they ended up maybe this wasn't their last stop, but they moved to another place or they jumped in, like, you know what I mean? They moved around a little bit and then they ended up in maybe their home countries again. And I know a couple people who've stuck around, they just moved, they're living in another part of Mexico right now. So yeah, and then as for the ones who have maybe stuck around, I'm not sure I know anybody who's come in like on my pandemic wave. and who's still here. Like I even used to have a neighbor, and it worked out nice because she's black, I'm black. She was from Atlanta, and she was from Atlanta, but she lived in California for a while. And it was just nice. Like we didn't need to be like super tight, but we like looked out for each other. We held each other down, and that was nice. Um, and she moved because just actually today I was coming up the stairs. I was like, oh, they're like finally like trying to rent out her apartment because that apartment's been empty for a really long time. She's been gone since last June.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
like people come and go, like Playa doesn't have that much going on.
Really? I get such a different perception, but obviously I don't live there. It just seems like a great place to party and spend time, but I guess
Yes.
outside of the beach, what else?
I
Yeah.
mean, how much of the water you gonna see?
Yeah, that's true.
Let's be real.
Definitely, definitely there's, you can't compare it to the richness of Mexico City or Guadalajara.
Or
Uh
other, yeah, Guadalajara. Like there's so many places like Monterrey, Guanajuato, like even San Miguel. Like there's so many places that you could be, and have things to do. Like there's not much culture here.
mm,
There's all of the tourists. Like even and the Mexicans will be the first people to tell you, be like, oh well, this isn't really Mexican food. Like they'll be the first. They'll be like, nah, you get better food. Like this isn't really Mexican food. Like there you go. Like, and
it's
most of the Mexicans that even live here or work here, they came from other places to work, you
mhm,
know? Like my
mhm.
nail tech is from Guadalajara. Like I was dating someone for a while and he's a Chilango. He's from Mexico City and he recently moved back in September. Like people, there's very few who really grew up here. And if they did, they're on the younger side.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Um, where do you have any plans to I know you did some traveling. I know Mexico City is your spot. Are there other places that's your spot in the country that you really enjoy visiting or spending time in?
I'm still exploring, but I enjoyed my time in San Miguel, but there was just like way too many like tourists again and like too many white people, too many old white people. Like, nah, no, that's a no for me. But like, I want to go to, there's a few places like Guadalajara is very high on my list. I want to
Mhm.
make my way over to the west, like
Mhm.
Ensenada. I would love to go see and just like that those parts of like wine country, like
Mhm.
Mexican wine country,
Mhm.
dying,
Dreamy,
um,
dreamy. Mhm.
dreaming.
Mhm.
Me and Bay so we did a road trip from Cancun to Mexico City. So like we hit quite a few spots. Puebla was really cool. I want to go back and like really experience Puebla. We were only there for like 2 days and we were exhausted, like just from driving and like annoying each other. We're over it. And we came through Veracruz, but we had kind of like a weird experience. Well, it was a little bit of narco shit going on. I don't know if you remember back in September when that happened in Orizaba, and they had that like, I don't know, maybe you didn't hear about it. Maybe you didn't hear
The
about it, but it was like some chaos. And what was so crazy is that I was like, babe, we should go to Orizaba because like my Spanish teacher was from there and she was like, talking about it. And I was like, oh, it's mountains and rivers. And I was like, it sounds really pretty and da da da. He's like, babe, I don't know if we can do it because it just didn't make logistical sense. So we ended up not going, and there was like a whole shootout, girl, like
Yes,
wild.
I
Like
recall the shootout. Yes, I
it was like
recall that.
all over Twitter. It was a
Yeah.
thing.
Which is a rare
Um,
occurrence, which is a rare
and which was
occurrence here, but that
heartbreaking
did
because
happen.
that's it's a pueblo mágico, I believe,
Yes. Mhm.
Orizaba.
Yes,
And it's a beautiful.
it's
It seems
one
like a
of the top
beautiful
Pueblo Magicos in the country,
in the country, right? And in
and
the
we were
state in
voted the
Veracruz.
cleanest. Yes, we were voted the cleanest city in the
Oh
country.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just is like so heartbreaking. So like whoever is watching, you should know like don't judge this country by that situation, because innocent people always get hurt and it's not fair. It's just not fair. And
Yes.
it's really sad.
It's very, very sad, and there's a lot of propaganda by the media outlets, and it's a whole other conversation.
It's a
Let
whole
me
other conversation.
it's a whole other conversation. Is there anything that you miss about the United States?
It's the most like basic, like when I tell you it's like the most basic bitch stuff. Like when I was there, so embarrassing. I was okay. So remember, from Jersey. So like I gotta eat pizza. Like I have to. Like I
Good
have to.
pizza. There's a
Good
difference.
pizza.
With no pineapples. Ridiculous. Ridiculo. Que asco. No me
I
gusta mi
actually do
pizza
like a
con
little bit
piña.
of pineapple
Oh, well, I
sometimes.
don't even know where
But
you
like
from
no,
then.
I
I
get
don't know where
exactly,
you
because
from.
you know what's really interesting about Mexico? Like, okay, I don't know if you've experienced, if you're like a sushi eater, for example, like they put like cream cheese on like in like every roll
Yeah, and I don't
here.
like that.
Like
I don't
like
I don't like
you'll
that.
read the menu and you're like, why is there cream cheese in like everything? Like why is that happening?
Yeah.
But like the food culture, like I just was eating and it was obnoxious. Like I was like, I'm gonna eat all the pizza, all the ziti, all this, da da da. I'm gonna go to Wendy's because I'm never going to, like, probably the rest of the year. I'm never going to Wendy's again. Are you kidding me? No. Like I was like, at Wendy's, I was like, Wendy's got a chicken parmesan sandwich, hey, garlic, like just basic bitch. Like it's so embarrassing, but that's what I wanted, and like a good sub. Oh my god,
I
like a
miss that.
really, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I
Like
miss that.
oil and
Yeah.
vinegar, not
Yes,
like the
girl. I
best.
miss that. I miss that. I when I go to
Good
the States,
bread,
I hit up Jersey Mike's, and then I also hit up the mom and pop places. The liquor store has good, they cook in the liquor stores. So that's
right,
where I go and I get my subs. I miss good
right,
subs.
right.
Subway's a little fix here, but it's not the same. It's
It
not the
doesn't
same.
hit the same.
Not at
It
all.
just does not hit the same. Like, oh my god, like that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. And so, yeah, honestly, like, outside of that, and my family and my loved ones, and of course the city itself. Like I love being back in New York, but after a few weeks, like I was over it. There's a reason why I left, like, and that feels good. It feels good to come back and be reaffirmed and being like, okay, like I wasn't just going through a thing. Like I needed a shift in my life and I followed that call. And that was the best thing for me to do,
That
you
was the
know,
best thing for you to do. Well, let me ask you,
100%.
what I want to go back to, you said you saw the video of the woman, the sister in Merida. What made you choose Playa del Carmen over Merida? Was there a comparison or anything,
Because
or?
I did my research before I came. And I
Mhm.
was like, well, damn, Marino sound hot as hell. Like,
It is
because
hot.
I like heat, but I don't like heat like that. Like that sounds
Yeah,
like
Merida's
Satan's
next. It's next
Satan's
level.
playground,
Yeah, it's next level.
So, and it also sounded like, from everything that I'd heard, it sounded like just very, like, more suited for people who either had kids or they were in a relationship. They were looking for like a quieter life. They're looking for especially safety. Like, child, I gotta go through the hood whenever I gotta go see my auntie. Like Brownsville, East New York. I'm not really stressed about like anything. You know what I mean? I can handle a certain amount of wild. It's not that deep. But like, I I just it wasn't my vibe. It wasn't what I was interested
Okay,
in. And I was like, the thing about it is like, if I'm gonna live here, like especially like this area, then I'm gonna do it. Then I'm just gonna do it because I'm like, okay, then I'm gonna go to Tulum. I want to be able to go here and da 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 da. Like, and especially I like being near Cancun Airport. Like, I believe it's the if not the first busiest airport in Mexico, the second. And it's definitely, I've heard, the second largest. And it's I'm willing to bet my life that it's the most efficient because of the fact that they get so many tourists, you know? So like being near an airport, an international airport at that, was just a huge plus for me. Huge plus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what advice would you give to a sister, or anyone who wants to move to Mexico, or to particularly to Playa del Carmen?
Do your research. That's my first
Hmm.
that's my first advice. And I
Hmm.
would say take a chance. Like come out and do 2 weeks like I did, like
Hmm.
gauge your interest. And also like be realistic about your emotions when you come here because it is beautiful. Like it is beautiful. Like the sunsets is one of my favorite parts of living here. The beaches are lovely. Tulum, like there's a reason why Tulum is such a thing. Like those beaches are gorgeous, But that don't mean you could live here like that. Like all that gets old. Tulum is in the freaking jungle, buddy. You want to live in the jungle? You sure? You ready for them critters? You ready? You sure? Because child, I seen a little lizard, a little mini lizard run up this wall, girl. One of the first days I was here, I was going to get my Rappi, and I'm coming down the stairs, and I seen this. I was like, I about jumped out of my skin. The Rappi delivery guy, for those who don't know, Rappi is basically Mexican or South American, like Postmates, Uber Eats, like that. He saw me and he was crying, laughing. And I was like, oh nah, oh nah, oh nah. But like, I swapped lizards for rats. I mean rats for lizards, Like
Hey, that makes sense to me.
it's different.
That makes
So
sense.
I would say just come here with an open mind, but come here for a short amount of time because also like you won't feel so pressured to love it or to make it work. Come here for like 2 weeks, come here for a month. I would say a month is really safe because 2 weeks is too vacationy. Like come here for
Mm.
a month and really see if you can hang
Mhm.
for real, because you'll know. And then
And I think you
go on
make
and
a
get
really
you,
good point. You make a
you
really
know?
good point about beach life versus city life, and the pros and cons, because I'm in a cold area. It gets cold air here.
Right.
So I'm just like, you know what? I'm over it. I'm over it. Like I'm ready to kind of experience. I don't have to live like, I'm good with being about an hour away from the beach, which
Right.
where we live now, it's about 2 hours. But my point is, I really appreciate museums and art shows and events. I really appreciate that, right? So I'm like, beach life, because like you said, okay, what is there to do? And funny enough, while I love the beach, my daughter, she likes it too, but we need activities. We need something a
Right.
little bit more stimulating. So that's something to think about. And you've gotten me to think, because I too want to explore the western part of the country, but I'm like, what else is there? And Guadalajara is a good, I think it's a happy medium.
Yeah.
um do you have any plans to travel to other parts of Mexico, or to other parts of the Americas, or anywhere uh, soon, or within like this year, or what have you?
I would hope so. I got to get some trips off my plate that are a bit work related. So I'll be in Paris soon, and then after
Nice.
Paris, I have to be in. Think I'm really excited. And then I'll get a little bit of time just to chill here. And I'll probably be in Mexico City February, maybe end of February, because again, like when you're here, it's cute. I'm telling you, it's a 2 week mark when you start getting sick of it, or I do anyway. So I'll probably be in Mexico City end of February. And what I would really love is to kind of explore like Tepoztlan, Taxco, um,
Taxco for silver.
Cuernavaca, I believe.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. Is
My thing
silver
is,
a
I want to get
thing?
to the West Coast. Silver is a thing. They're supposed to have some of the
Oh,
best silver in the world, in that area.
wow.
Um, I
That's so
There's just so much to
interesting.
see. Yeah, people don't
There's
realize
so
how
much to
big
see. City.
There's so much to
Like,
see in
I
Mexico.
mean, people
So
talk
much.
about Mexico City. I'm like, well, I was telling my friend because they want to come in from LA. And I was like, let me tell you, like, it's not just Mexico City. You could go 2 hours outside of Mexico City and see so much. You can go to Puebla. You can go to, I went 4 hours to Las Grutas de Tolandango, like there's so many things to see around Mexico City. And then in the other, there's 32 states in Mexico. There's
Mm-hmm.
lots of places to go. But I really would love to get to Guadalajara this year. I was really upset that, the group we were in, our pork chop group, I was really upset that I couldn't make that trip in November.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and unfortunately, that was
Guadalajara
around the
is
time.
great.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
I
loved
really,
Guadalajara. I only went there once and I loved it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want to
It was
go.
fun.
I just, I feel like I'm gonna love it. I feel like I'm gonna
Yeah.
love it. I think it's gonna be
There's a
great. So
there's a black community there. There's
I love
the
that.
diasporas there. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to I had asked a question in the group because there are Mexican teachers there who went to study in Guinea, Conakry, African dance. And
Wow.
there's a big exchange with people from Guinea, people from the Ivory Coast. I know there's someone who lives there with my last name. So I'm very excited to connect with that community in Guadalajara.
Amazing. On my dad's side, because my dad is Mandingo. So,
Hmm.
Mandingo, the tribe is very large. So we have
Hmm.
family in Guinea, we have family in Mali, so that's so
My
interesting.
grandfather, yeah, my grandfather was from Conakry, and my grandmother was from Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Yeah, on my paternal side. So,
Okay.
there's like you see people with they're just, the drums and everything. And these Mexican women have literally gone to study in West Africa, and then you see a lot of people coming here to give dances and teach. So I'm really interested in exploring that. And then, of course, the rest of the diaspora is there.
Yeah.
So it's not all about the South or Mexico City. There's a lot of people in the West, and of course, Tijuana is a stronghold too.
Right.
When
Right.
we, me and my daughter, we were in Monterey, and I've never seen so many Black people in
I
Mexico.
want to go there too in
There
Monterrey.
were so many Black people. I believe most of them were Haitian. I believe most of them were Haitian. They
That
weren't
makes
from the
sense.
U.S. They weren't from
That
the
makes
U.S. But
sense.
it was just so many. I was like, what? And this was just at the bus station. So a sister that I know from Houston, she was like, yeah, a lot of the Black people she runs across are usually from either the Caribbean or Africa. But there
Okay.
are Black Americans there as well. And I want to be more intentional being connected to other immigrants. That's or expats, immigrants. That's important to me, just to remain connected.
Especially
Just like
black ones.
oh, absolutely, oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
So I think
Mhm.
that's important. That's important for me. What do you have any regrets moving to Mexico? Is there anything that you would do differently?
Not really. I mean, you have to make mistakes in order to have progress. Like, that's a part of the package. Failure is a part of the package of progress. So you can't say, oh, it's a big African thing. Oh, your parents don't want you to make mistakes. And I always say, I was like, but we all make mistakes as humans. And if you don't make mistake, then you don't move.
It's very
Then you
true.
don't move. You know
That's
what I mean?
totally an African parent thing. It's
It's
so
such an
true.
African parent thing. Like,
Yeah.
I was having this actually on TikTok. Because there was a girl who was really going through it and just talking about her African parents, and a girl had responded to her in a comment who happened to be Liberian, and she literally said that she was like, she was like, oh, they love you, they just don't want you to make mistake. And I was like, this is why a lot of us don't have progress, because we're fearful of making
Mm,
mistakes. You have to make mistakes in order to grow. You have to. You know, it's a part of life.
yeah. And this is
You know,
something that's emotional intelligence that some of our parents lack.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. Because, and I mean, I'm sure again, that's a whole other conversation. But
Ah,
that girl, that's a whole other conversation, because it has to be levels of trauma also involved in that, because it's fear. To me, it's, and especially when you come from like my mom is I say my mom because my dad is a Muslim who is now a Buddhist, so just to kind of show you, like, I come from two very rebellious parents, just my mom is lesser so, but like my mom is pretty religious, and I'm just like, but it don't make no sense though, because you can't be a woman of faith and walk in the amount of fear that you have, because you do have a
Hmm.
lot of fear. There's so much that you're so afraid to do, and life is going.
Life is going.
Life is
You're so,
going. Like,
you're right. Life is
what
going.
happens when something, God forbid, something happens? What memories will you have? The same thing you've been doing since you were a child, because if you come to this country, you stay in the community of people that you grew up, you know what I mean? Those that came over, you still in that same community. You don't branch out. You don't really
Mm.
travel.
Hmm.
What is like, what is life?
Yeah, I have this running joke with some people that I know. I'm like, they shouldn't have given you a green card. You should have stayed back because how are you learning and progressing and moving forward? These
But for
same,
real,
how are you expanding yourself? Your circle is the same people from your city,
the
from
same
your
people you
town.
grew up from your village, those
Yeah, and
same
it's like
people. Like,
those
what?
same people, like and you're in a whole new country, and but it's a balance. Like I said, I want to remain connected to immigrants here, but the immigrants here are from all over the diaspora. They're all from all over the Americas. They're from all over the Caribbean. They're all from all over Africa. So to me, I'll be getting a cross section of experiences as opposed to literally just staying with people who are from New York or
Right,
from the Bronx,
right,
or from Liberia or just from Sierra Leone or
right,
whatever the case
right.
is. You know,
Exactly. And like, can you imagine, like I would love and to have like more New Yorkers here. But you know what? In terms of when we talk about mistakes, I know that life, God's spirit, does not make mistakes. It's a good thing that I'm in a situation that isn't recognizable to me. But then, when I went to Mexico City, I did make very good friends with a girl. And she said, she was like, I was so happy to meet you because the minute I met you, I was like, oh, I knew nothing was wrong with me. she was like, I knew nothing was wrong with me. I'm just from Brooklyn, like, and these mugs, they can't handle it. And I was like dying, and I was like, no, like, it's so great to have a little piece of home. Obviously she's nowhere close to me, but like just to connect with her sometimes, or again, like just for us to have like our Black people, like, that feels good. It helps us
yeah, I don't.
feel a little bit
I,
normal.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know any New Yorkers other than you, and then the group that we're in on WhatsApp. It seems like a lot of people are from different places. I think Atlanta
Not
is a
too
big
many New
city.
Yorkers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Atlanta is a big city. Or if we're
Atlanta's a
here,
huge one.
Atlanta's
A
a big
lot of people
city.
from Atlanta.
I, I think Chicago might be another one.
Chicago is another
Um,
one. And just like Texas.
I was going to say Houston. And then you got a sprinkling of people from California. Why do you
Yes.
think New Yorkers are not here? Or maybe we're not as vocal, or are we just staying in Mexico City? I don't know.
I think
I don't
that
know.
if New
And there's
Yorkers were gonna
DMV too.
come,
Maryland,
right.
DC. There's a few people.
Yes. I think that is exactly what I said. I think New York is a really hard place to leave, excuse me. Um, if you got a job there, like, you just can't pick up and leave, because you know why? Ain't nobody trying to give up their apartment. Let's be real, especially now.
Real
What?
estate is at a
Like,
premium. Hmm.
everybody, like, my friend has to move, and she's like, this is a freaking nightmare. She was like, there's nothing, like, because nobody wants to move because everybody's freaked out about their rent going up. Da, 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 da. So like, let me tell you, there's lots of factors as to why New York is a hard place to leave, and also because you literally have a smorgasbord of everything in New York. You can meet anyone from around the world in that city at any point in time. And I know because it's
Absolutely.
happened to me many times.
Absolute facts. Absolute
So
facts.
like, I know born and bred New Yorkers who have never really left New York like that, and have
Hmm.
no real interest to. So it's like,
Absolutely.
I think that the average New York, and then like, you you don't necessarily have to come all the way out to Mexico. Like I know a lot of New Yorkers in the pandemic that moved upstate, that moved back to you know what I mean? Little towns, like, so yeah. I just don't think it's necessarily on their radar.
Okay, that makes sense. All what you cite makes sense. I remember when I left New York, I left my apartment with my ex's brother. Like I just didn't just leave it. I left it with someone that I
Right.
knew, like because it was
Yeah.
prime real
So you
estate.
could try to finagle getting back
Yes,
in because
yes,
finding a good
yes,
apartment, especially apartment you love,
yeah. And
that's
I had such a
no
good
easy
landlord.
thing.
Not at all. She's a sweet, sweet lady. She didn't want me to leave. She was like,
She didn't
"Why?
want you.
Why?" She didn't want me to leave. I loved her so. I wonder if she still owns that building. Yeah, New York was good to me. Well, I moved to the Maryland because I wanted to buy property and I couldn't afford it in the city, and that's where I met
Right.
my ex, and I had my daughter.
Right.
All right. Well, if there's any way, if people are interested in following you, if you want to share any of your handles, let me know. You can say so now.
Sure. I would say follow me on TikTok. I just got like into TikTok and I'm gonna be talking more about travel and just my life and creativity and being a New Yorker and a black woman and da and arguing with these hoes because they all love to argue. Love to argue. Like, what is your problem? And my handle is three O's Prada you.
Uh-huh.
So Pradayou.
Oh, I
So
love
Prada you.
Oh, I love that. Okay. All right. I've captured it and I'll add that to the introduction information. I thank you very much. Maima? No, it's not.
Moeima. Moeima.
Say that
Moeima
again.
is my rebrands, but the African way of pronouncing it is
Okay.
Moeima.
Mwema. Okay. Mwema. Okay. We have a friend and she's Liberian and her name was Maima. So maybe that I'm getting
Maima. So
confused.
maybe it's yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have Mima, and then I have a cousin. Her name is Muna. So all these sort of
Yeah.
names.
I
It's a
love that.
combo. Yeah, it's a combo. Well, I thank you for taking the time. I'm happy we finally got together, and look forward to her TikTok. Everyone, it's Sooopradayou PradaYou. So please follow her TikTok.
Yes.
She's a beautiful sister living one of her best lives in Mexico, and she's fully remote. That's how we're able to live here and move about, freely. Thank God we're able to do that. We're able to do that.
Amen.
All right, thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
guess
Thank you so
this is
much.
the Bangura Chronicles, Diaspora Voices on Blackset Radio, and the Bangura Chronicles or Roxana Bangura on YouTube. Yeah.
Awesome. Bye.
Okay. You want to hit the record?
Yep.
I
Here.
don't know what happened. So it
We're
stopped.
almost a full hour.